Former Senior Director for Counterterrorism at the National Security Council, now Executive Director of the International Spy Museum here in D.C., retired Colonel Chris Costa joining us now. Chris's piece, "The U.S. Must Help the Resistance Wage the Other War in Ukraine," also just posted on thehill.com today. Must read. All right, Chris, as Poland's foreign minister just said, these talks about the threat to the OSCE, does the U.S. need to assume greater leadership here in enabling resistance networks in Ukraine? And if so, what would that look like?
Kira, thanks for the question. It's great to see you again, and thanks for having me. So I think what it looks like is more of what the United States has been doing, which means ensuring that President Zelensky has what he needs. Now, he's not getting everything he needs right now. Obviously, he's not getting the aircraft that he is requesting, but we have to look past the current situation, which is dire. The fact that the capital, the center of gravity for Russia, the capital that they're going after, Kyiv, is essentially under significant threat, as your reporters have discussed, as we've seen televised in the past 48 hours. The bottom line is the Russians are engaging in a war of annihilation. So conversely, what that really means is the United States and NATO should enable resistance forces with the appropriate equipment, the weapons that they need, and coordination, and start looking at when Kyiv is presumably surrounded. What does that look like as the Ukrainians wage a resistance against an onslaught by the Russians? It is eminently doable because the Ukrainians have the spirit, the population is clearly defiant, and they have a president in the way of Zelensky who is rallying the people. So I think it has all the chances of being successful in bleeding the Russians. In short, though, to answer your question directly, more equipment, more of what we have provided, meaning ammunitions, medical supply, and coordination. And the United States is very adept at that.
All right, so let me follow up on that then. And I know that you pretty much knew the president was going to be heading to Brussels ahead of time, because that's what you do intel. So if NATO supports the Ukrainian insurgency along with other European partners, can Russia, can Putin be beat?
Yeah, I think that what can happen is the Ukrainians can continue to bleed and make the Russians pay for every square inch of what they're doing in the Ukraine. And that will force, ultimately, Putin to the table for some kind of concessions. Some have argued that he is, a cornered animal right now, and that means he is extremely dangerous. I still submit that he is a rational actor, albeit extremely agitated and dissatisfied with what his generals told him, what his intelligence services told him. So what I would like to see is the pressure get ratcheted up and Putin figures a way out of a debacle on the ground in Ukraine, which means consistent pressure will allow, President Biden to ensure that we can collectively get Putin to the table to make some of those concessions. So diplomacy is still a potential recourse.
Okay, well then, final question. Let me ask you about diplomacy then, because Ukraine and Russia, they're continuing to negotiate to try and end this violence, and Ukrainians have definitely figured out how to slow and wear down the Russians. How are they doing it? And does this buy time for a possible Putin tailspin, or what you say, maybe, diplomacy, negotiations, forcing him to the table?
So I think that's exactly right. The fact that there's pressure being placed right now on the Russians in the Ukraine, that really undermines Russian morale. It undermines their ability to be aggressive. It really is a psychological component. So Molotov cocktails, they matter from a psychological standpoint. That means the Russian soldiers that are on the ground view this assault on Ukrainian people as a hopeless endeavor. So we have to continue collectively to raise the cost, to the Russians while they wage a hopeless fight, and coordinate those activities, continue to ensure that there's communication with all of our foreign partners, and along with the United States taking a leadership role, NATO itself needs to look at the unconventional dimensions of what's happening on the ground in the Ukraine. And that's not lost on NATO planners, I am reasonably confident of. So that combination may put Putin in a position to go to the table. It's not going to happen overnight, but it'll happen in time.
As we like to say, that very long, long, long table. Chris Costa, great to see you. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.